Hello and welcome to Nutrition and Alternative Medicine. I'm JJ Flazanes, your host. Thank you for downloading today's show. Today's episode is how to be your greatest possible self. Today we have Chris Burns with us, and I will tell you that Chris Burns will be one of the presenters at the Next Big Step. You have 6 days to take advantage of the 2-pay option, just to break it up and make it a little bit easier in your pocketbook. We do have options for you to roommate with people at the hotel if that is something of interest to you, and break out those miles. Get your miles, use them for this event. It is well worth the investment into your next big step and your greatest possible self. Clients hire Chris Burns, aka Mr. Heartfire, to hold them accountable, break through their BS, encourage them to be their best, and achieve higher levels of personal and professional performance. Chris is passionate to work with leaders, entrepreneurs, and others who are stepping into their greatest possible self. Audiences love Chris's great energy. Since hitting rock bottom at an early age and bouncing back stronger than ever, Chris Burns has become well known as a speaker in the fields of personal development, business, and leadership. He's spoken on stage at more than 90 live events across the United States. Since February 2017, Chris has interviewed over 300 inspirational role models, influencers, and leaders on his weekly 12-hour live-streamed marathon and podcast called Becoming Your Greatest Possible Self. As an inspirational speaker, Chris is dedicated to awakening the power in each person he meets so they too can create their reality and discover the God within, leaving them embraced in joy, love, and transcendence. Welcome to the show, Chris.
Thank you. Thank you. It's great to be here, JJ. I'm super excited to be and become our greatest possible selves together, especially with the listener right now.
So there's a lot going on in this show today. First of all, it's how to be your greatest possible self. That's kind of a really big stretch and leap for some people. And maybe some people don't even know what that means, right? And you have a 12-hour marathon live stream. Is it Facebook Live or is it just a live stream?
Yeah, Facebook live stream, and then it turns into a podcast and YouTube episodes, blog posts, show notes, all that good stuff. Usually takes about 8 weeks, but yeah, it's just an awesome batch day. So tip number 1, batch your work, batch your creativity, your productivity, because it makes it so much more efficient. I get up to 9 guest interviews every week, 9-hour-long interviews. So that's a lot of content, and I get to turn that content into awesome stuff from there.
Great. Well, a lot of the listeners on my shows are not necessarily entrepreneurs, but for those of you that are, and any of you that are podcasters, absolutely, that is the best way to do things. I normally record on Wednesdays, but I can't record Chris on a Wednesday because he is in 12-hour marathon mode. So, I met Chris. We met at New Media Summit, and I was really impressed with your demeanor. And
thank you.
You're welcome. And because Chris is a little younger than I am, and there's this whole millennial thing that, and I don't really participate in most whatever people are talking about in the news or like that sort of like normal people conversation around the water cooler about the judgments and whatever about different generations, because it goes in all directions. But I know, because I have a lot of very close millennials to me, that you and a lot of listeners actually of my podcast are millennials and younger. I've got 18-year-olds reaching out to me about my show. So awesome. I just think you represent what I want everyone to be doing. And it's harder for older folks because they're so set in their ways. They get a little crunchy about changing, but there's a centeredness to you that I thought was a really awesome display of knowing yourself and of doing the work, and you sort of become that package. And so that is one of the reasons, as you know, I told you before, I told you like 3 times, I'm like, I really like you. And here's why I like you. Let me list the ways. So, I'm not like flirting or anything. I'm just telling you that this is kind of, and I'm not, my standards are high.
You're not blowing smoke up my butt.
Nope.
You're not a butt kisser.
Nope. There's nothing I'm trying to get from you. There's nothing I'm trying to get from you. So when I invited you to the event, I definitely wanted you to be able to be that masculine presence and also be that hope and and tell your story. And I don't even really know your story yet. I know I've heard bits and pieces of it. And so I'm setting this up for everybody because on one hand, because I dealt with this. When I was 21, I was director of education for New York Sports Club. And I felt very judged because I'm sitting in a room full of especially men who are, beefy bodybuilder guys who've been training for years and basically looked at me like, who the fuck are you? And who, like, you're 21, you're not a bodybuilder. What are you going to teach me? And so without, with as much dignity as I could muster, because I definitely was afraid of that, I just asked very simple questions about the pectoralis major and where does it insert, where does it attach, and what joints does it cross, and what action does it make, and what plane does it contract in. And all of a sudden, everyone's looking at me like, I don't know what you just said. So I established my credibility very quickly in a room full of skeptics who wanted to judge me based on my age. So to set this whole show up, I'm telling you all this because I know and I feel and I trust within Chris that he's already lived a lifetime of experience, and to not let that get in the way of listening to what you're going to share with people, even though I know a lot of my listeners are younger, so it doesn't matter. But I do have the people who are in their 50s and 60s and hopefully even their 70s who listen. And I think you have an old soul and you have a lot to share and an example to show. And so I want to start by, and you're going to be at the event, so it's going to be presenting at the next big step, and we're going to go over that. But I want to know more about your story. I want to know how you got to be who you are right now in what I feel is very balanced, grounded, yet you're super energized, which can be not you, but freaking annoying for a lot of people who are like all about just adrenaline. And that's the balance. I'm like, okay, I saw you be like, yeah, go, whoa. And I was like, whoa, dude. Okay. But simultaneously, I saw you be grounded. I'm like, okay, he can morph and change. So take us back. Tell us a little about your story.
Absolutely. I'd love to. So it really started off playing video games. And I think a lot of the millennials can resonate with that. And if you're a little bit of older generation, then what it started off with is this desire to have fun and enjoy life. So I'm grateful that at the very beginning, I started with that. And I had great parents. They loved me and they're still together to this day. So I'm grateful I have that role model to look to, my parents and how they've stayed together, how they've communicated. So first recommendation for the listener is find someone or people who you look up to and stay as close as possible to them so that you become like them. And, really, I met my girlfriend about 5 months ago in February. And because of my parents and how they raised me and how they disciplined me and how they didn't give me everything that I asked for all the time. And I do have a little bit of the millennial entitlement, but not as much as I would say is rampant in today's day and age. And I'm grateful that my parents gave me enough, and there was still always, I wanted more. I wanted to achieve more and become more. So going back to the video games, I loved playing these video games because I could grow. In me, one of my biggest values is growth. I love growing. I love community. I love connection. I love achievement. I love, those are the real philosophies that drive me. So when it came to games, I could grow my character as big and as powerful as possible. And going into junior high, I transferred to a new school district, and I felt like I didn't know anyone. I made up a story in my mind. I made a decision that I was an outsider, that I was different, that nobody understands me. So through that process, I felt alone and isolated in junior high, moving in through high school. And I felt like that was a wound that I had to deal with. So I used video games as an outlet for me to feel powerful, to feel in control, to feel like I had this sense of like, wow, look at me, look at who I am. But every time I stepped out of the video game into the world, into the real world, I felt like a little shrimp, a little, weak little kid. Like I felt little, I felt so small. And I think that part of that came from my dad, who's, 6'2" and I'm 5'9", and he was always this big burly dude who I looked up to, but I never felt as powerful or as strong as him. I couldn't take him on. And I've been reading a lot about the masculine journey recently, and how during those 11 to 14 years, teenagers, boys especially, are looking for the men in their life to pass on that masculine acknowledgement of, you are powerful, you are enough, you do have what it takes, you're a champion, And my dad did that to me to some degree, but I believe that my own desire for control and wanting to hide in my room and play video games all the time disconnected me from my parents. And I said that they didn't get me. They don't understand me. Like, and I felt alone. I felt resentful. I felt, I didn't want to have anything to do with them. For a long time, I said I didn't know what love was. I didn't know, like, I didn't feel any love. I wasn't present to love at all in my life. And so that got me into some dark places and trying to prove myself as a young man growing up and trying to be enough, be powerful enough. And it led to me in my social circles trying to keep up with people or prove myself in the form of drinking and partying and doing drugs. And so after about 4 years of going to lots of raves and getting into that kind of like scene, I hit a rock bottom moment. And I was at a rave, and I ended up getting arrested by an undercover cop, and I spent 2 days in San Bernardino prison. And luckily, the charges were dropped; the case was dismissed. But in there, I had this decision, this fork in the road of seeing how I was torturing my parents because I wanted to prove to them that I was capable enough, that I was strong enough, that I was man enough, that I could handle life on my own and I don't need them. And wow, look at where it ended me up. And having to call my parents and tell them where I was like, I feel like I got present to love again. I represenced myself to what love was, because getting on the phone with my parents and hearing them say, Chris, we're going to get through this. We got your back. Like, don't worry. We're going to figure this thing out. I was like, what? How do they still love me? How do they still, want to have want to have me be a part of the family? I thought I was done. I thought I was like, what did I do? What did I just do that screwed up the rest of my life? I had my electrical engineering degree. I was, they put me through college and did everything they could. And for me, it was just that moment where I was like, wow, like this is what love is. This is what the parents, as close as to unconditional love as possible, no matter what I do, they're still going to be there to remind me that I'm better than this. And I don't have to stay here. I can move out of here. So after that, I made a decision that I would never wind up in a place like that again. And I got out of jail and started going to Toastmasters to develop my speaking and leadership abilities. I started volunteering locally. And then that followed a series of jobs, sales jobs, marketing, business analyst, different stuff like that, engineering jobs. And then I created my coaching company 3.5 years ago and been building that ever since, helping entrepreneurs to get unstuck, applying all the information that I've learned, the mentors and coaches who I've worked with who helped me grow. And I just love growing. So anytime I can empower people to see who their greatest possible self is, and we can get into that philosophy and what that's all about. Anytime I can help people do that, it's like, wow, that fulfills me, because I know through them, I'm growing, I'm building my legacy. They're out there stepping into their power, into their courage, into their bravery, into their boldness to show up in life, how they know they're capable of showing up and really expressing their love, being self-expressed, connected, joining communities and building communities and making a difference. So that really has me be excited, because I know that I'm making a difference in the world. I know I'm growing, and I know I'm leaving a legacy.
So I'm a little in shock about the electrical engineering degree. Like, that's so linear. Engineering is so linear, Chris, and you're a Gemini. You're nothing at a linear. You're not linear at all. I mean, I'm sure you're linear as a masculine presence, but wow.
Right.
And so, okay. And I have to know, so 3.5 years ago, and you were about 24 when you started your company?
Yes.
23?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You have me beat. I started mine when I was 25. Okay. So I became an entrepreneur at 25, and and started my company, moved from New York to California and started a business and franchised something or did a license agreement from a company in New York. So I'm curious as to, and you can name them, you cannot name them, some of the biggest impacts in terms of your training, in terms of your teachers. Like what do you think, if you listed maybe 2 or 3 of the things that shifted you the most, what would they be?
Yeah. So I started off in network marketing, actually, and that was while I was still in college, and I learned about Jim Rohn, Les Brown, and Darren Hardy. Those were the biggest ones. Tony Robbins was there too, but I'd say he was more in the background. But Jim Rohn has like the most classic philosophy on life, and his oratory abilities and how he speaks is phenomenal. So I loved learning through his picturesque speaking, how he paints pictures, how he takes people through a journey in his speaking. So Jim Rohn's amazing. Les Brown is just, like the one of the godfathers of motivational speaking and personal development. And I love his fire. His fire really ignites that passion and energy in me. So I was really attracted to that. And then Darren Hardy was huge for me in the beginning because he taught me about the compound effect. And the compound effect means that over a long period of time of sustained effort, that creates an exponential result rather than incremental. Rather than 1 + 1 + 1 + 1, it starts becoming 1 + 1 + 2 + 4 + 8 + 16, like really growing at that exponential level. So I figured, well, as long as I just keep doing the basics and the things that I know I'm supposed to be doing, taking action, networking is huge for me. And we can get into that in terms of becoming your greatest possible self and how the 12-hour marathon and connecting with up to 9 guests, doing 9 30-minute pre-interview calls every week has connected and expanded my network drastically with amazing people. Super grateful for that. But with Darren Hardy, it was the compound effect that I knew as long as I stay in the game, as long as I keep playing, as long as I don't quit, as long as I don't give up, I'm going to have terrible days. I'm going to have days when I just want to throw in the towel, when I self-sabotage the heck out of me and I just, play so small. And then I get out of that phase. I start to say, wait a second. We're spiraling out of control. This isn't going how I want it to. What do I remember about how to get out of this? Oh, that's right. Call someone who's a professional colleague. Call a coach, ask for help, reach out in a community of like-minded, trusting people who I can ask for help, go do something for other people, take the focus off myself, go out there, help others, be of service, read, get more positive, inspirational messages in my mind. Instead of listening to music at the gym, listen to motivational tapes and speaking. So those were the biggest 3, I would say, in the beginning, is Jim Rohn, Les Brown, and Darren Hardy, just because of the philosophies that they implanted and planted seeds in my mind that are now blossoming and continuing to blossom.
That's awesome. I love Jim Rohn and I definitely love Les Brown. I don't know Darren Hardy, but I definitely am in agreement with what you said about Jim Rohn and Les Brown. Definitely parts of my entrepreneur life has been shaped by both of them and their teachings. So now you're doing this 12-hour marathon about being your greatest possible self. What does that mean to you? What do you want it to mean to others?
Great question. So your greatest possible self is the version of yourself that has maxed out all of the characteristics, the attributes, the abilities, the dreams that you have, your character, right? You evolve your character in this lifetime to that best potential, right? And that happens every single day. And there's 2 aspects of greatest possible self. 1 is who you're being, and 2 is who you're becoming. So you can be your greatest possible self by taking an action in alignment with that bigger version of yourself. And if you like who you're being, then that's good. That's stepping into your greatest possible self. And then the second is becoming. So who are you becoming? Is the destination where you're going, if you continue with these actions, is that going to fulfill you? So being is more of the now. Are you fulfilled now? Because if you're not fulfilled now in your path to be who you want to be, then you're not going to, in my opinion, there's a more resourceful place to come from. There's a different mindset that you can come from, so that you're saying, okay, how can I approach this day differently? How can I be grateful? How can I be appreciative? How can I be thankful for what I do have? How can I be thankful for this opportunity for growth, for this challenge, for this obstacle that's in my life, for these things that aren't going the way that I want? You can be grateful for the contrast, for seeing, wow, I'm in this not so great situation right now, and I know where I want to go in the future is better. So how can I start being grateful now? And by being grateful now, you can start enjoying more of who you're being. And that is, in my opinion, the essence of being your greatest possible self. And then the destination is becoming. So to really get that destination, you have to design that. You have to design where you're going, your greatest possible self. And, I think we're going to dive into this a little bit more in a second, but the vision of your perfect day, your perfect life, the thing that you want to create the most, that would be most worth it if you lived this life and at the end of this life, you said, wow, that was amazing. What an amazing ride. I have no regrets. I'm all used up. I used all my talents. I developed myself to the maximum. I took on those big challenges, those big, hairy, audacious goals. I was bold. I got uncomfortable. I grew myself. I stretched. I served others. I made a difference. I made an impact. Like, look at those things when you're designing that future, because that is so important when you're living life. As far as we know, we got one life. So why would we settle or tolerate, the suffering through life, saying that, oh, this has to happen. We have to suffer. It's a part of us. And I think that's a mentality of older generations, that they think that you have to grind it out. You have to suffer to get to where you want to go. Work really, really hard for 40, 50 years and then retire, and then you can enjoy your life. I call BS on that. I say that you can enjoy your life right now, being fulfilled, being your greatest possible self, knowing that you're getting to where you want to go. But it really starts with designing that end in mind. What inspires you? What activities do you want to do? What hobbies do you want to do? Do you want to take dance lessons? Do you want to take music classes? Do you want to be an artist? Do you want to do cooking? Do you want to do fitness? What inspires you? And it really is this iterative process. So JJ, you mentioned that I've done a lot of work on myself, and I've spent hundreds and thousands of hours reading, journaling, meditating, doing these things that develop myself, my character, my abilities, my greatest possible self, so that I can show up every moment the most resourceful, the most energized, the most empowering, the biggest contribution to other people. But it started by saying, I don't want to just be mediocre. I don't want to just have another life. I want to leave a legacy. I want to be the most fulfilled. How much can I grow? That question, how much better than this can it get? Show me how it gets better. Show me how we can evolve through this to be our greatest possible self. And it's like that curiosity, that wonder, that excitement, what potential lies at our fingertips that we haven't yet recognized. That's something that fires me up, because I'm just like, I'm one idea away, one decision away, one connection away from my entire life transforming. And I will continue going and taking steps forward forever, because that's what I enjoy. That's what I get fulfilled by. So that's what it means to me, is really being your greatest possible self in the moment, enjoying your life, being fulfilled, choosing fulfillment rather than choosing victim, choosing blame, choosing suffering, choosing fulfillment, joy, taking a step in the right direction, getting to a better place. And then also, where are we going? Is that vision for where we're going, the fulfilled life, the impact, the house and car and life of our dreams, our dream partner. I created my girlfriend, and she's freaking perfect. Like, I journaled about her. I meditated on her. I called her in. I did all these things to create her. But without the clarity of doing those things, she would have never came. Without the investment of energy and time and effort, she would not have manifested in my life. So it does take time, takes repetition, and there's people around like JJ, like myself, who can help you out to get clear on that, to start doing those processes on a daily or a weekly basis to take steps in the right direction. So I started listening. I said, I don't know. I don't know what the answer to this greatest possible self thing is. I don't know how to become a millionaire. I don't know how to do these things, but I can surround myself with people who do know. And I'm going to tap into those. I'm going to take advantage of the resources, the free resources, the content, the videos, the books, the seminars, whatever it might be, to help me get there. And I'm going to keep showing up. That's my one commitment. That's my promise, to keep showing up.
I feel like I'm at an advantage because I already know at least your sun sign. I don't know if I've done your astrology or not yet, but I will before the event. So Chris is a Gemini, and there is this what I find fascinating about how I read you is, and how you are, and how you could either be interpreted in a couple different ways. And everybody can be, right? It depends what frequency you're on, is how you're receiving somebody. So what's really interesting to me is knowing that you're a Gemini and hearing some of the language that you've used. While I am in agreement with you about most of it, the fine line becomes, for me, with law of attraction work that I do in all my shows, is that sort of because I do know we have more than one life. So what that means for me is some people need to chill out and relax and not stress out about like hitting a certain goal necessarily, because it's all okay. And that actually, that receiving mode brings in more when it is when it's coming from a place of feeling a trust and a surrender. Now, the reason is because the people who normally are so focused on a goal so intentionally in everything they do, there's a little bit of a driving anxiety underneath there. There's a fear. It's fear-based, not always. And you don't have it, is the point. I'm listening to, I'm feeling, I'm like, nope, this is because you get excited about the creation. And that's the exact place to be. But there's such a fine line in the presentation for me, and for, I don't know if it's just women in general, but sometimes there's an energy that can come off from very focused masculine energy, and even women, about do it, gotta go. And it's based in fear. And I know because I've lived it. I've been there. And I'm very good at a lot of things. And because of that, unfortunately, I felt like I had to produce. I trusted myself. I trusted that I could produce anything. If I wanted to do it, I knew I could do it. I could get it done. I could figure it out. I could learn it. I could attract it. I could do it. But when I had to take a step back after years and years of work and realized, after I wrote my kind of second book, it really was the first book that came out, but Fit to Love, after I wrote that book, and I had a business partner who had invested in that and and everything that went along with that. And I had a very clear picture of what I wanted it to feel like and what I wanted to look like. And he was the perfect investor on many levels. But at one point, of course, he didn't agree about my choice of how much he was investing and how it would play out. So I had to work with a lot less initially. But I said to him, look, if I have to do everything, I don't want to do it, because what I believe is that there's a whole leverage of universal energy out there that we don't have to recreate the wheel. We have support in non-physical ways that we do not take advantage of when we are disconnected from ourselves. When we're connected, we get the hits, we get the inspiration, we meet the people like you were talking about with your girlfriend. And as you know, and actually now everybody on my show knows too, about what I've recreated again with Doug, right? So I manifested my husband 12 years ago, and that was very intentional, and it was the right thing as long as it was the right thing. And then the moment it wasn't the right thing anymore, and I had been doing the same exact work you were doing in terms of the vision process, in terms of writing it down and journaling about what I wanted, being very specific, and not even about the writing part, the feeling part, really trusting and believing, I know I'm going to have this. I know I'm going to have this. I don't know how I'm going to have this, but I know I'm going to have it. And then the minute I surrendered, I got exactly what I wanted. And so I want to call attention for people to hear this, because sometimes people shut down when they have anxiety. So let's say someone has really high anxiety and they hear someone with a lot of really passionate, positive energy, but it's the energy production's almost close enough to anxiety that they get triggered. They're like, oh my God, wait, that's too much for me to do. And they shut down. Right. And in reverse, same thing with like, some people are, I'm not, when someone tells me to do something, and no one tells me to do anything, but I'm just saying in general, like if I hear people talk about action, take action, I'm like, oh my God, relax, go relay out, go chill out for a minute. Because most of the time, the people that you're yelling at to take action are the ones that never do, right? They're stuck. And the ones like me, I have no problem taking action. This is not a problem. I'm not fear change. I want to be my best, greatest possible self all the time. Always. I'm always unlayering, growing. If I find something that I'm like, oh, I don't like that. Well, let's go clean that up. Let's go work on that. Let's go figure out how I can erase that or transmute that into something positive. And let's let go of what the limiting beliefs are around that. So you and I have very similar characteristics in that way. But I just want to sort of compliment you and also point out to everyone listening, because they're with you coming into the event. I didn't have to have a masculine energy, and I didn't have to have another person, for crying out loud. I could take everybody for the whole week myself, but there was, and so I had the hit of like, when I first met you, I was like, maybe, and then I pulled back. And then I forget when else we talked again, and the hit came again. I'm like, nope. Yep. Ask him. And so it's all very organic, and that organic connection with myself is what propels me forward. And so I just want to say good job because I feel the cleanliness of your vibration, about the excitement of the vision, the excitement of what's possible, the Gemini, let's vision it. Let's go crazy and see how much we can do and make it really fun and an adventure.
Yes.
Right. I hear that completely. But I want to make sure people who are listening especially the older ones, who have
Hmm.
heard this kind of rah rah before. And I'm not saying you're rah rah. I'm not trying to but there is a line where their
Yeah.
anxiety gets triggered because they're not clean enough. They have their own wounds,
Mm.
right? So they can't feel you as clean
Right.
as you are. And that's
Mm.
one of the reasons why I do like you so much, because you have that. It isn't based on anxiety, and there is a here and
Mm.
now to it, and there's an excitement and a passion. And
Well,
so
I want to speak to that because you're so right, and I think it's important that we have that balance of getting fired up, getting excited, having fun, adventuring, and playing, which I think a lot of people are missing. A lot of people have taken life so seriously, and
totally,
even
totally,
even
totally.
even me, like I've I own that at times it has been more about the achievement and I got to get to the top of this freaking mountain or else, like, and no matter what I have to do, even if I get blisters and bruises and all this kind of stuff, and even if inflicting that harm, the self-sabotage, the stuff that is not good for me, I've known myself to do those things. And I'm super grateful because in the last probably 2 or 3, I've studied the art of being in the now. Right, Eckhart Tolle writes the Power of Now, amazing book, right? And it's through those kinds of resources and that mentality of being present that I have learned to have this purity behind my fun, behind my joy, behind my drive of creation. It's like what I see is this creation. We are masters painting a masterpiece. We are sculptors sculpting our works of art called our life. And I believe that there's an element of it that is work, that is play, that is also surrender. And that's been a huge challenge for me, to surrender to life, to allow, to accept, to forgive. And those are aspects of stuff that's both in my control and out of my control. But I think that there's such a amazing balance. And you mentioned that I have both these masculine and feminine energies. I grew up trying to prove that I was masculine enough. So it was coming from this place of fear, of unworthiness, of not enoughness. And my mom had always been there for me, I'd always had a good, strong root in my mom, which I think had a root in my feminine energy and my nurturing, my feelings for people and feelings for others, but also the feeling of my greatest possible self, being tapped into that emotional guidance of who am I becoming? And there's a feeling that comes from growth, from the excitement of who do I get to become? Who am I being right now? And who do I get to become? So I used to be afraid of my masculine. And honestly, within the last year or so, I've been really working on that aspect of not having to prove something, not having to be rah, not having to be, big and bold. Because at times when I first started my seminar journey, when I was in seminars, I would try to be the loudest person in the room. I would try to be noticed. I would try to be seen because I was so insecure about who I was and what I was bringing to the table, that I felt like I had to prove something, and that was the only way I knew how to prove it. So over the years of understanding and learning that I am enough by doing the mirror work and telling me how proud I am of these things, how I forgive myself for the things in the past, how I commit to these new things, new ways of being, new actions. It's taken so much work, but through that action of balance, of how do I balance what, or the non-action of being, of letting go, of just existing and allowing what life has to bring to us, and trusting the flow, trusting the intuition, going to these random places that you don't even know why you're going there. I know I've allowed myself to just take an entire day and go to Buddhist temples and meditation gardens and things that I'm just like, let's go play, let's go see what life has to bring to me. It's so important that we harness both of those aspects, because if we're purely feminine in our existence, I think that there's a lack of the masculine that brings fulfillment. And if we're purely masculine in our existence, then there's a lack of the feminine and nurturing and feeling connected and emotional intelligence that we're missing out on. So I do believe that balance is such a critical part of my journey. And I also do believe that in order to experience true balance, sometimes it takes being willing to go too far in one direction, because I knew I played it safe in the past, not wanting to be out of balance. So I attempted to stay safe and stay in this little parameter range of not too masculine, not too feminine. And that didn't serve me either. So I think that there's a commitment to be the fully expressed version of yourself, your greatest possible self, in your expression of masculine drive, creation, build, and in your expression of feminine feel, release, surrender, and allow. And I love that we get to dance like that through life. It's so much fun.
Oh, I love it. And I agree with you 100% in terms of the balance. It's not about always being in balance. Balance sometimes you're on one side and sometimes you're on the other side, but you spend equal time, or, you're not totally 90-10 in terms of whether it be how you're expressing yourself, how you're showing up, or sort of which energy source you're coming from. Have you explored the work of David Deida?
I have read a couple chapters of his book, and I definitely The Way of Superior Man.
Yeah,
and I know
that's the one I was wondering if you had. The Way of Superior, such a great book. So
I'm committing right now to do even more investment of time and energy into that, because that was on my to-do list of that next masculine and feminine understanding and evolution. Because I believe that when we understand ourselves and why we do the things that we do, self-sabotage, limiting beliefs, blind spots, and ask for support from our community, from coaches, from mentors. When we understand ourselves, we're able to do better. When you know better, you do better. But it's also know better and take action on the knowingness, because just to know is not enough. And I believe that there's a level of action that a lot of people are unwilling to take. We're talking about this balance of, Chris Burns is all fired up and do this. And I think that there's an element of entitlement, and I want the world to come to me. I want the riches to come to me. I want the man or woman of my dreams to come to me, the spiritual evolution and awakening to come to me. And I believe that a willingness to put in the work is important. Not necessarily that it has to be extremely hard and difficult and arduous, but the willingness to go through those things to reach the state of enlightenment, the state of awakening, the state of spirituality and love for yourself, because that stuff takes work. Loving yourself, learning to love yourself, appreciating yourself. It takes a discipline. It takes a relentlessness in the effort to do that. So I love it. I love talking about this stuff.
Yeah, I do too. And my mission is to help people understand the difference between inspired, aligned action and action that just keeps you spinning in anxiety and actually is disconnected from you. There's a difference. And so I feel yours is, whether you know it or not, or you're aware of it or not, or you talk about it or not, there's a difference. And not coming from anxiety, the action that you need to fulfill the goal. First, there's the inspired thought and connection to the outcome, which in its positivity gives you that alignment with both source energy as well as yourself. And then all those things keep flowing. And there definitely is action is necessary, but so many people are taking uninspired, disconnected from themselves action based out of fear. And they just keep fear going over and over and over again. And that was one of the reasons why I wanted to bring you to the event. Because I know you did the 10-day meditation retreat, which we're not going to talk, we don't have time to talk about on the show today. We'll talk about it another time, and we'll talk about it at the event. But I want to go over what you're going to take us through at the event with the idea of that future process, that becoming and being. So tell us what you're going to do with the event.
Yes, certainly. So one of the things, there's two things I want to mention right now. One of the things is going to be really designing your life. Okay. And that's going to come through setting a vision for your life. What's your mission? What are the objectives? What do you want to accomplish? If you could map out your life, if you had a realistic magic wand, what would you accomplish? And if you're listening to this, you can write down these questions. What's my vision for my life? Which is the world I see. I see a world in which blank. I see a world in which everyone is choosing to be their greatest possible self. I see a world in which people don't have to suffer through human trafficking. Men and women don't have to suffer through that. I see a world in which everyone has more than enough, lives in abundance. Whatever that is for you, that's your vision for the world or for your community. Maybe you don't want to impact the entire world. Whatever level you are committed to playing at is perfect. It's perfect for you. Whatever is inspiring to you. So maybe it's your community, maybe it's your family, maybe it's your city, state, country, whatever level, maybe it's your business. Whatever level is perfect for you. So that's your vision. The mission is what are you here to accomplish? What's the vehicle, so to speak, of how that will be accomplished? So my mission is to empower people to become their greatest possible self. My mission is to give them that choice, right, to do that. And then we have the strategy level, which is what's the strategy that you will use to get there? Similar to mission, but it's more specific on the vehicle. So maybe it's having a 12-hour weekly marathon where you interview amazing role models and experts and people who are changing the world. So that could be a strategy for you. Maybe it's having an online show. Maybe it's having a community center. Maybe it is having a coaching business that serves people. Maybe it is working with your family to create the best family unit possible. Maybe it is educating people on how to get out of poverty. Whatever that is for you, that's going to be your strategy. And then we have the objectives, which is the things that you want to accomplish. So for me, I have objectives like be able to travel the world, speak on stages in front of tens of thousands of people, be able to have as much money as I want, all the resources I want so that I can fulfill my dreams, be able to impact certain communities, be able to develop myself, self-mastery, meditation, enlightenment. So those are objectives that you can create. And we're going to be going through all these at the event, and also getting clear on your values, what's important to you. So that's one aspect of it. And we'll design that at the event for you and what is important to you, the vision of your life. We'll also break that down into goals. So now that you have this blank canvas of what you want and all these inspiring things, how do we get there? What do you have to achieve in the next year? What do you get to achieve in the next year so that you know that you're on track with these goals? What big actions, what big projects can you take on that move you a step in the right direction? And then from there, from that year goal, the 3 months goals, what are you going to accomplish in the next 3 months? The 3 projects, the 3 biggest things that will move you towards those year goals. And then your 1 month goal, your 1 week goal. So we will go through all these at the event. And I love digging into these. And when you have questions, if you're unclear on all this, you can ask me at the event. It'll be super fun. So that's number one. And then the second thing is your perfect day, right? So really just imagining what your perfect day is. If you could have life be any way you wanted it, what would your perfect day be like? How would you wake up? Would you wake up next to the love of your life? Would you wake up in a village in Africa knowing that you're about to go do great work, great humanitarian work? Would you get up and start writing your book, or celebrate the completion of your book, or something like that? Really, I don't want to put too many ideas in your head, because it's your perfect day. You get to design this, but just understand that designing your perfect day is critical, because you can start feeling what is inspiring to you. When you close your eyes and visualize, that's what we're going to do at the event. We're going to take you through this process of closing your eyes and visualizing what is your perfect day. And that way you get connected to it emotionally and visually, and you'll journal about it after and share with people. So you're going to go through this process of what is it a daily basis? What are those things that you're doing? Are you involved in certain communities? Are you speaking? Are you traveling? Are you with family? What are you doing on that perfect day? And when you get clear on that, then you can start knowing, how do I shift my current days in this reality, in this time where I'm at right now? You're listening to this podcast. Maybe your life isn't going exactly how you want it to go, and you do this perfect day exercise and you say, oh, well, that's what I really want. That's what inspires me. That's what calls to me. Going on vacation, whatever it is for you, being in different countries, at the beach, whatever it is for you, the perfect day. You get to start seeing, okay, if that's my perfect day and I'm here, what are the steps that I'm going to take to get from here to there? So it goes hand in hand with that, the statement of purpose, who you're committed to being and developing yourself, the vision, mission, strategy, objectives, getting your life plan clear, and then you'll start taking action towards it. And I love empowering people to share about it with others, because I believe when we are in a safe space and a sacred space, like I know we'll be at the Next Big Step event this September, like when we're in that space, it's so powerful to share your dreams, to share the inspired actions you will be taking to have your vision come alive in the minds of other people. And I know JJ is going to be doing some accountability things afterwards that's going to help you stay accountable with those dreams and those purposes. So really, this event is so incredible for you wherever you're at in your journey, whether you're just beginning or you're committing to getting to your next level, you're taking your next big step. it's perfect for you because it's going to get you more clear. It's going to get you more tapped in, more in touch, more tangible on the things that inspire you, that move you, that connect to your soul. And you're going to have the support of myself and JJ and all the other amazing facilitators who are going to be there and speaking to help you take your next big step. So I'm super excited about the event and just taking you through this exercise. And if you have any questions before the event, you want more clarity, or at the event, please feel free. I'm an open book. I'd love to help and support you to take those steps.
And so let's tell them where to find you and your show.
Awesome. So you can find me. The 12-hour marathon is on facebook.com/TH3 Burns. Again, that's TH3 Burns, like the, except with a 3, Burns, TH3 Burns. That's my Facebook. I do the 12-hour marathon there every single week from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., up to 9-hour-long interviews. And then you can find the individual podcast episodes by searching Becoming Your Greatest Possible Self on iTunes, or just searching it online, Becoming Your Greatest Possible Self, or you can visit our website at beyourgps.com. That's BEYOURGPS.com, beyourgps.com.
How funny that I did not even know that that's what that stood for. And I was like, oh, that's like, I didn't, wow. Hello. What's up, JJ? Yeah. But I was like, oh, be your own GPS. Yes, be your own GPS. Like literally GPS, because that's very law of attraction terminology about that you're your own GPS in terms of how you feel. So how perfect is that? That's awesome.
Yes.
I love it. All right. So everybody check out everything Chris just told you about in terms of his podcast, the 12-hour marathon, which I'm going to be on soon, and or after, depending on when I publish this show. But all of the past recordings will also be on a YouTube channel as well, Chris.
Yeah. Search Becoming Your Greatest Possible Self. You can see the video individual interviews of everyone who's come on the show since we launched the podcast in November, which I think we're at 183 or something like that episodes since November. And you search it on YouTube, you'll find it.
Awesome. Well, I can't wait for the event and to take people on these powerful processes. I know no one's going to walk out being different or the same. Everyone's going to walk out being different in some way. So I'm excited to have you. I'm excited for us to share in helping people, again, get to that next level. And I definitely want to make sure people check you out. So please make sure to check out Chris. He's awesome. And I will see you guys here back next week. So thank you so much, Chris, for being on the show.
Thanks, JJ. And I'm looking forward to giving tons and tons of love and great energy and helping people step into their greatest possible self at the event and in life in general. And thank you for the work that you do, JJ. Thank you for taking your inspired actions. Thank you for showing up in your greatest possible self. I appreciate you.